So here's what's happening. Starting from January 2025, Indonesia is implementing a new VAT rate of 12%. As they gear up for this change, the folks over there are working on some stimulus and incentive packages. Now, I have to confess that when I hear about stimulus and incentives, my eyebrows raise a bit. Big financial shifts often mean someone ends up with an unexpected bonus. Wouldn't it be something if we could find out who gets to cruise around Jakarta next month in a luxury EV car from China? Anyway, stay safe and safe driving.
All right, so let's dive right into this briefing on the Indonesian economy. Looks like we've got a lot to get through here. Articles on the housing market, nuclear power, and some leadership changes at Bank Indonesia. And, well, we can't forget about the VAT increase to 12%, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the elephant in the room.
Exactly. And we know you're prepping for a meeting with the minister, so this VAT issue, it's probably going to be, like, front and center. So we're here to make sure you've got all the intel you need.
Sounds good. VAT's been a hot topic, definitely a lot of public debate around the increase. And yeah, January 1, 2025 is coming up quick.
It is. And you know what's interesting? It's not just some random policy change, right?
Yeah.
It's all part of a much bigger picture, this whole tax reform thing, mandated by Law No. 7 of 2021, actually. And the government's been pretty careful about how they're presenting this VAT increase. They keep saying it's all about luxury goods and services, stuff that mostly the wealthy are buying.
Right. It's all about fairness. Minister Sri Mulyani, she's made that point over and over. Even with this increase to 12%, Indonesia's VAT rate is still pretty low compared to other countries.
Good point. Definitely something to keep in mind when you're talking with the minister. Shows you've done your homework, right?
Exactly. Shows you're thinking globally.
Okay, so beyond the VAT increase, let's not forget about that economic stimulus package announced on December 16th. Seems like the government's trying to get ahead of, any potential concerns.
Yeah, definitely proactive, trying to soften the blow, especially for businesses and individuals, the ones who aren't, in that top income bracket.
Makes sense.
And it's not just a quick fix either. It's about, well, from what we've seen so far, it's about long-term economic stability and growth.
Right, a more holistic approach.
Exactly. More details to come, I'm sure, but the government's definitely signaling that this VAT change is just one part of a much larger strategy.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Look beyond just the VAT for a second. What other key economic trends are we seeing?
Well, growth projections for 2024, they're currently sitting a bit below 5.2%.
Okay. And I know Minister Sri Mulyani has been pretty vocal about wanting to maintain growth above 5%, both this year and next, in spite of, all the global economic headwinds.
That's right. Ambitious goal for sure. And then there's the state budget deficit.
Ah, yes.
It's reached Rp 401.8 trillion as of November 2024. Definitely going to be a big topic for the minister.
Yeah, no doubt. Got to show where the money's going, right? Spending, revenue streams, and how it all ties into that deficit. Big picture stuff.
Absolutely. Can't ignore the fundamentals.
Okay, so another issue that we can't ignore is the housing crisis. Even with all the government programs, Indonesia is still struggling with this major housing shortage.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
And you know what's crazy? A lot of those affordable housing units they've built, they're empty. Like reports say 60%, 80% are unoccupied.
Wow, that's a lot. Really shows you that just building houses isn't enough.
Right. There's a disconnect somewhere. Location, affordability, clearly the demand isn't matching up with the supply.
Yeah, got to make sure those programs are actually meeting the needs of the people they're meant to help. Location's huge.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's shift gears a bit here. We've got to talk about the geopolitical landscape. Trump's back in the White House, and, well, there's no ignoring that. America First policies, potential trade wars, it could all have a pretty big impact on Indonesia.
Yeah, that's the wild card, isn't it? Always a bit unpredictable.
That's for sure. Tariffs, manipulating the dollar, all that stuff,
Yeah.
It could directly affect Indonesia, especially with how much we hold in U.S. Treasury securities.
Good point. Makes them pretty vulnerable, potentially. But on the other hand, Indonesia has been pretty active in, well, they call it a free and active foreign policy.
Right. And you can see that in how they're trying to join all these different groups. BRICS, plus the OECD, and then there's that CPTPP trade pact.
A lot of irons in the fire.
It is. Shows they're serious about engaging on multiple fronts, though, economically and politically.
Smart move. Can't put all your eggs in one basket.
And then there's the whole thing with strengthening ties with African countries. Fits in with Indonesia's goal of becoming a leader in the global south.
Yeah, definitely seeing a shift in that direction. It's a complex world out there. Multipolar, they call it. Indonesia's trying to find its place.
Makes sense. Okay, so speaking of navigating complexity, what about Bank Indonesia? Seems like there's been a bit of a shakeup over there, all those new leadership appointments.
Yeah, it's more than just a few new faces, though. It's a whole shift in direction. They're really pushing for digitalization and making things more efficient.
Interesting. And I noticed there's a new head for the payment system department. Looks like they're serious about modernizing the whole financial infrastructure.
Definitely. Fintech, digital payments, it's all growing so fast. Gotta keep up.
Right, stay ahead of the curve. And what about the new head of the international department?
Well, they'll have their hands full, that's for sure. Global finance is only getting more and more complex.
No kidding. Definitely something worth mentioning to the minister, don't you think?
Yeah.
Shows you understand the inner workings, how it all fits together.
For sure. Knowledge is power, as they say.
All right, well, let's,
Oh, and before we move on, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on.
okay, what's that?
Nuclear power.
Ah, yes. Can't forget about that.
It's a big decision. A lot of people have strong opinions about it, but Indonesia's moving forward with it. They're
Yeah.
aiming for, get this, 5.3 GW of nuclear power by 2032.
Wow, that's ambitious. And a bit controversial, right? Lots of risks and rewards to weigh.
Definitely. But they've already picked out some potential sites, and they're working on strengthening the regulatory framework.
Interesting. So it sounds like they're really committed to diversifying their energy mix, moving away from fossil fuels. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely. This one's definitely a long game.
Okay, so um, let's maybe circle back to that economic stimulus package for a minute. We talked about it briefly, but I think it's worth diving a little deeper.
Yeah, good idea, especially since it's tied so closely to the VAT increase.
Exactly. We need to, really understand what the government's doing to soften the blow, so to speak, for businesses, for individuals. We need to know the specifics.
Right. What programs are they putting in place? What kind of impact will they have? It's all about mitigating those potential negative effects.
For sure. We'll dig in all that after a quick break.
Okay, so let's dive into this economic stimulus package a bit. Announced, what was it, December 16th?
That's right, December 16th.
Yeah, so we're still waiting on some of the finer points, but there are some key things we can already see, even from the info we have now. The government is definitely, I think they're trying to get ahead of any worries people might have about the VAT increase.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah, especially about, how it could affect inflation.
It seems like they're tackling it from a few different angles, trying to address concerns from businesses and people, too.
Exactly, multi-pronged approach. And it's not just about, short-term relief either.
I was going to say, it seems like some of this stuff is about, long-term economic stability, right? Growth, even.
Exactly. And that's where, this is what I think is really interesting. The government seems laser-focused on sectors with, high growth potential. And one of those is, the sustainability industry.
Oh, yeah. Which makes sense, right?
Right.
With all that, we were talking about Indonesia's nickel reserves earlier. If they can, manage this right, they could become like a global leader in sustainable energy.
Oh, yeah. Huge potential there. And this stimulus package, they're putting their money where their mouth is. Putting resources into, research and development in this sector.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've even heard whispers of tax incentives for businesses, the ones working in sustainability.
Interesting. So they're really laying the groundwork for this to become like a whole new pillar of the economy.
That's the idea. It plays to Indonesia's strengths. And it positions them right at the front of a global trend. Think about it. What if they can successfully, make Indonesia this hub for sustainable technology, for manufacturing?
Right.
That could bring in tons of foreign investment, boost the economy even more, create jobs.
Yeah. No, it's a compelling story for sure. And it fits in with, well, everything we're hearing these days about ESG investing.
Oh, absolutely. Environmental, social, and governance, that whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. Investors, especially the smart ones, they're looking for opportunities that are, good for the planet and profitable. Indonesia seems to be, they're putting themselves in a good position to take advantage of that.
Exactly. All right. So I think I got to switch gears again for a second. We need to think about the political landscape, both here and internationally. I mean, we can't just pretend that Trump being reelected in the U.S. won't have any effect.
You're right. We've got to be ready for anything with him.
Right.
America first, and, well, he's not exactly predictable.
Nope. Yeah.
His track record, well, he's shown he's willing to shake things up when it comes to global trade, right?
Oh, yeah. Remember those tariffs he slapped on, like
Yeah.
out of nowhere?
Yeah.
That could really hurt Indonesian exports.
Uh-huh. Industries like textiles, manufacturing, those guys rely a lot on international trade. They'd be hit the hardest.
Makes you nervous just thinking about it.
And then there's that whole thing about renegotiating trade deals, right?
Oh, yeah. He's talked about that.
Yeah, so who knows what that could mean? Maybe new tariffs on Indonesian goods, just another layer of, well, uncertainty for businesses that are already dealing with a lot.
So it probably makes sense for the ministry to start thinking about some backup plans.
Yeah, for sure. Contingency plans are always good. Maybe looking at different markets for exports or strengthening ties with other countries to, balance things out a bit if the U.S. starts causing trouble.
Diversify. Diversify. That's what they always say.
Always a good strategy. And speaking of diversification, Indonesia's been pretty strategic in how they're positioning themselves globally. They're going for membership in BRICS plus A, which is that group of emerging economies. And they're trying for the OECD, too, that club of mostly developed countries. And don't forget about the CPTPP trade pact. They're involved in that, too.
Wow. So they're really playing the field.
That shows they're not just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. They're trying to, make their own luck.
I like that. Taking control, creating their own path.
Yeah, forging new partnerships, strengthening the ones they already have. It's all about finding their place in this, multipolar world.
And this ties in with their whole goal of leading the global south.
Exactly. It's a theme we've been hearing more and more lately.
Yeah. And it's more than just like words, right? They're actually doing stuff, building stronger ties with African countries, pushing for a more balanced global order.
Right. They're trying to use their own experience as a developing nation to help other countries facing similar challenges. It's about collaboration and shared prosperity.
And it goes beyond just the economic stuff, too. They're sharing what they know about disaster management, climate change mitigation.
It's a pretty broad vision, trying to break down those old power structures, build a better future for everyone, more sustainable, more inclusive.
It's a big goal, for sure. And it's worth pointing out that, well, President Prabowo Subianto, he's the one leading this charge. And he's got a lot of experience in international relations.
Yeah, he's the right guy for the job. Navigating those tricky geopolitical waters, building bridges between different countries, different cultures, that's going to be key if Indonesia wants to achieve these pretty ambitious foreign policy goals.
It's a good reminder that leadership really matters, especially when things are so uncertain globally.
Couldn't agree more. All right, so I think it's time we circled back to Bank Indonesia. We were talking about all those leadership changes earlier. It seems like it's the start of a new chapter for the central bank.
Yeah, it really does. It's more than just a reshuffling, right? There's a vision behind it. Digitalization, efficiency, and it seems like they want to be more collaborative internationally.
Definitely. Appointing a new head for the payment system department, that shows how serious they are about building a strong, secure, digital financial infrastructure.
That's essential these days, right? Fintech, digital payments, it's all changing so fast.
It is. They're smart to stay ahead of the game. And the new head of the international department, well, that signals that they're being more proactive about engaging with, global financial institutions and figuring out how to navigate all the complexities of international monetary policy.
It's about making sure Indonesia has a voice on the global stage, right? That their interests are taken into account when the rules of the game are being written.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's switch gears one more time here. Time to talk about the housing crisis. It's still a big problem, right? Needs some creative solutions.
It does. It's not going away anytime soon. And the government, well, they've set a new target. 3 million homes every year.
3 million. Wow, that's pretty ambitious. It's going to take a lot of effort to pull that off.
It will. And it'll have to be a group effort, too. The government can't do it alone. They'll need help from the private sector, for sure.
That's a good point. It shows how important it is for everyone to work together on these big issues. You can't rely on the government to fix everything.
Right. It's about building partnerships, bringing in private investment, and, creating an environment where sustainable and equitable solutions can flourish.
Yeah, I like that. Sustainable and equitable. That's key. And when it comes to housing, it's not just about the number of houses, right? It's about quality, affordability, and location. It's got to be convenient. People need access to jobs, transportation, schools.
Yeah, you're building communities, not just houses. Okay, so there's another topic I wanted to touch on, something that could really change things for Indonesia. Nuclear power.
Ah, yes, that's the big one, isn't it? Lots of debate around that.
It is. But it's something we need to consider, especially as Indonesia tries to, diversify its energy sources and become less reliant on fossil fuels.
It's a bold move. Could pay off big time. But there are definitely some risks. We have to think about safety, the environment.
Of course. But the fact is, Indonesia's moving ahead with it. They want to have 5.3 GLW of nuclear power capacity by 2032. They've even picked out some possible sites.
Wow, sounds like they're serious.
Yeah, they're also working on, updating the rules and regulations to deal with this new energy source. This is a decision that'll have an impact for decades to come.
No doubt about it. A turning point for Indonesia's energy future. But before we go too far down that road, I think we should come back to the VAT increase for a minute. In the middle of all this talk about economic growth and global strategy, we can't forget about the people, right? How will this actually affect their lives?
Right. The day-to-day reality.
Yeah. The
They're
government keeps saying this VAT increase is mostly going to affect luxury items. But I think there's a real concern that prices could go up for everyday things, too.
So that's where this economic stimulus package comes in.
Oh,
We need to look at how effective it'll be at, easing the burden on families,
Mhm.
making sure they can still afford the basics.
absolutely. We have to connect those big policy decisions to what's happening on the ground. Will people have to pay more for food, for transportation? Will the stimulus package actually help them out? Those are the questions we need to be asking.
Yeah, we need to see the details, not just the big picture stuff.
It's all about nuance.
Yeah.
We need to look at the specifics of this package, the programs, the initiatives. We need to understand who it's really going to help and who might be left behind.
Ultimately, it's about making sure that economic growth actually makes people's lives better.
Right.
A rising tide should lift all boats.
Exactly.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, let's take a kind of like a bird's eye view here. We've covered a ton, from that VAT increase and what it means right now to the long-term stuff Indonesia is going for, especially like sustainability and their role in the world.
And it's interesting. All these things, they seem kind of separate, but they're all connected. Like, take the VAT increase. Sure, it's about getting more money for the government. But it's also about, strengthening their financial position, and that gives them more room to make smart investments in key areas.
Right. Laying the groundwork for a stronger economy down the line, one that can handle whatever the global market throws at it.
Exactly. And those investments, like we've been talking about, they're going towards infrastructure, digitalization, and of course, that whole sustainability sector.
Right,
Right.
right. And that's where Indonesia's moves on the world stage come in. Joining BRICS plus maybe the OECD, building those ties with the global south, they're creating a better environment for trade, investment, and tech collaboration.
It's all about having a seat at the table. When the big decisions are being made, making sure Indonesia's interests are heard. They're not just going along for the ride, they're trying to steer the ship.
I like that analogy,
Yeah.
steering the ship. So even the VAT increase itself, it sends a signal. It says, hey, Indonesia's serious about being responsible with their money. They're doing what it takes to create a stable, predictable economy.
Exactly. And that builds confidence, right? For investors, both here and from overseas, shows them Indonesia's committed to sustainable, inclusive growth, which, those are big buzzwords for investors these days, especially the ones focused on ESG, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. ESG. It's everywhere now. So this brings us back to that economic stimulus package. It's basically saying, look, we know this VAT increase might cause some bumps in the road, but we're taking steps to help businesses and people through it.
Right. It's a tough balance, though, keeping things financially sound while also making sure those who are most vulnerable, well, they don't get left behind, making sure everyone benefits from economic growth.
And that's where, our work at the Ministry of Finance is so important. We have to analyze, advise, explain the trade-offs involved. We're the ones connecting the dots between these big policy decisions and how they actually affect people's lives.
Right. We have to look beyond the headlines, the big numbers, really dig into the details of the Indonesian economy and how it all works, figure out how these changes will impact different industries, different people.
Anticipate challenges, find opportunities, develop strategies that make sense financially and are good for society as a whole.
Exactly. It's about making sure economic growth leads to a better quality of life for everyone in Indonesia.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something to think about. We talked about Indonesia's goals of being a leader in the global south, a powerhouse in the sustainability industry. But, What will it actually take to make that happen? What are the roadblocks? What specific policies, what actions will unlock Indonesia's true economic potential? Those are the questions we need to wrestle with going forward.
Big questions, for sure, but important ones, because the decisions we make today, they're the ones that will shape the Indonesia of tomorrow.
Well said. So let's keep talking, keep sharing ideas, keep challenging each other, and let's keep working together to build that brighter future for Indonesia. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Hope you found it useful.